lead running back. All right, let's stick with your sits now, Heath. And apparently you're not going to be welcome in the state of Colorado going to Denver because Melvin Gordon, Devonte Williams, and Jerry Jeudy. We know why you're concerned about Jeudy. Long layoff. Talk about the running backs, though, because they both scored in their last game.
Well, I think the Washington defense as a whole has been bad, but their pass defense has been atrocious, and their run defense has actually been very good. Alvin Kamara is the only running back to even run for 70 yards, and he ran for 71 yards. We know that Gordon and Williams are going to chop things up almost 50-50 every week, at least until that changes. And so chopping it up against a run defense that's been this good in a game where the Broncos, if they look at the defense they're facing, should choose to pass more than they run it. I don't trust Gordon or Williams to be top 25 backs.
All right, so we'll see what happens with both of those guys. Do you agree with Sportsline, Williams over Gordon, or are you still Gordon over Williams?
I still have Gordon over Williams.
You, Dave?
I like Devonte better, more explosive and more effective in the passing game.
That's the thing for me is the passing downs work. I think as we saw last week, he got more catches, more involved in that aspect of the game, and based on the pass defense here, I think Devonte Williams has a little bit of an edge, but as we've seen, they're so tied together, so hard to necessarily disagree if somebody likes one over the other. All right, Dave, let's take a look at your sits here. And I want to ask you about a couple of situations. Let's start with T. Hagans because last week, 15 targets, matchup against the Jets. I know their numbers suggest one thing, but the defense is terrible. But you're staying away from Hagans once again?
I don't like what I saw last week. He had 15 targets. If you had told me that T. Higgins had 15 targets last week, I would have told you that he had his best game of his career. Instead, it was another underwhelming performance. He's not separating from coverage. He needs a touchdown to score, a touchdown to be good in fantasy, I should say. And you mentioned it, Jamie. The Jets have allowed 3 touchdowns to receivers all year. It's not because they're good against receivers. It's because teams take their time on offense and they run the ball well against them. T. Higgins isn't going to get a lot of carries. So I'm nervous trusting him as anything more than a low-end PPR flex.
All right, so we'll see how things – obviously no concern about Jamar Chase, though.
Oh, no, we're starting Jamar Chase. Okay. Too much upside to go with.
All right,
that's the one player on the passing game for Cincinnati I like.
Just want to clarify. Just to bring up, just because you have a couple of backup running backs here, Alex Collins we know is going to be the guy for at least one more week against the Jaguars. But Devonte Booker, is this more of a sit because of him by himself, or is this because Barkley coming back?
Well, obviously, you're not going to use him in fantasy if Saquon Barkley's there, but I think Kansas City's run defense can actually stand up a little bit against Devonte Booker. He's a lot like T. Higgins. If he doesn't get you a touchdown, what good is he to your fantasy team? You should be able to go with one of the other Kenneth Gainwell, for example. I think I'd rather go with him than Devonte Booker this week. Certainly Chuba Hubbard, other recently added running backs that should be ahead of Devonte Booker. Now's the time to just get what you can for him in trade.
Okay, so we saw Booker the last 2 weeks lead the Giants backfield in touches, scored against the Panthers, not so much against the Rams. We'll see if the Chiefs defense can keep him out of the end zone. Sits for me, I'm probably going to have to leave my hometown because I don't like the Dolphins. So we got Myles Gaskin and Jalen Waddle on this list. Obviously, I don't like Tua Tagovailoa taking on Buffalo as well. I'm a little concerned about Mike Gesicki also. This Bills defense is good, number 1 against opposing wide receivers, so Jalen Waddle probably not going to have a huge game, better in PPR than non-PPR. And Myles Gaskin, I'm extremely encouraged by Malcolm Brown being placed on IR, but still don't expect him to have a huge game. Again, better in PPR than non-PPR, but if these guys don't score, you might be a little bit frustrated with the production. So there's the starts and sits that you need for week number